So welcome everybody. My name again is Shaun McCloskey. I am here to talk to you guys about coaching, how to not screw up everything like I did in the beginning, hopefully how to convert some students and kind of the process of getting people from beginning to end. I've been doing this about 13 years, specifically coaching, and so I've tried a bunch of different models during that time. I'm here to show you what works. What works for me isn't necessarily going to work for you, so I'm going to show you a couple different models, and then you can pick and choose the best from any of those that you like. But I want to start off with one question. I want you to write this down, and I know this sounds ridiculous. Please write this down. What business are you in? Zach asked a really good question. What do you want out of all this? And I love that question. But you also need to ask, what business are you in? Are you in the coaching business? Are you a consultant? Are you in the hard money lending business? Are you in the RIA business? What's your core business? I ask people this all the time. No one can answer me. They give me this vague, awful answer. Well, I'm in real estate. Really? Well, you have a RIA and you have a hard money lending company and you do flips and you have rentals and those are like 7, 8, 9, 10 different businesses. And I want to ask you, what is your core business? Today, my core business is coaching and masterminds. That is my core business. It doesn't mean I don't do anything else, but my core is coaching and masterminding. And so that is where I spend the majority of my focus. I don't allow it to become a distraction because one of my other things that I'm excited about this week takes over. And I see coaches do this all the time, especially those that collect a whole bunch of money up front, spend it the second month, and now owe their students another year worth of coaching. You become an awful coach because the money's gone. You spent it on more marketing or keeping the ship afloat like Zach was talking about and so forth, and your students become a burden to you. If they are, they will feel it, and you will not be what you came into this business for in the first place. Most of you came in this business, how many of you came in because you wanted to change people's lives in a really positive way? Say, I did. I did. Thank you, 3 of you. How many of you really want to change lives? Say, I do. Okay, if you do, then you have to focus on what they need and what they want. When I first started coaching out, I wanted to help people. Had no clue how to sell myself. But I was told, because I was flipping 70, 80 houses a year, you should start coaching people. And the more people in my hometown, St. Louis, where I live, started finding out how many houses I was flipping and what I was doing in my business, the more they wanted to pick my brain. And so I was like, well, if I'm going to do this, somebody said this before, I might as well get paid for it. But it was not my core business. And so I never got really, really good at it at the beginning. Not only that, I didn't know how to charge for it. I didn't know how to sell myself. And I didn't even know who my ideal client was. And so what I did is I took anybody that had dough to get into my group. And guess what happened? I freaking hated coaching. I will never forget this. This was actually 4 years into my coaching. So 2011, I'm coaching a woman. I was doing some one-on-one stuff at the time. And I was coaching this woman. We used to do 45-minute coaching calls. And a coaching call with her was hell. Because have you ever seen somebody that talks so much that you can't even help them because they already know the answers? I'm like, why did you even join the program? We would get on the phone, and she would bring up 60 different topics in the first 3.5 minutes. I couldn't get a word in edgewise. It was so bad that, I don't admit this publicly, this is the first time I've admitted this, I fell asleep on the call. I fell asleep for real. I woke up about 10 minutes later, I think, and she was still talking. And I missed nothing. And then at the end of every call, she would go, this is wonderful, thank you. I'm like, I hate this. I want to go draw a hot bath and slip my wrist. This is not what I signed up for. But at the same time, I was like, but I need this money. She's paying me every single month. I need it, and she paid me a big upfront fee, and so I have to stay with her, or else I have to refund her, or what am I going to do? And so I stuck with it, even though I hated it. And I hated coaching. It wasn't coaching that I hated, it was the people that I had that I was working with. I had no filters and no criteria. We're going to talk about that a lot today. And so what I started to do at that point, this didn't happen until literally, 4 or 5 years ago, I really started to get harsh with this. I do not accept anyone in my programs just because they have the money. I have a very specific criteria for who I allow in and who I don't allow in. And because of that, I love what I do now. I really, really love it. And I'm not just saying that like it gets me out of bed in the morning. Do you know what I mean by that? I don't have to get out of bed. It gets me out of bed. I love it. I love the people that I work with. I'm honored to do what I do, and it's a big responsibility, and I take it very seriously. And so, but I didn't before. It was an afterthought. And I mean that up until about 5 or 6 years ago. And I was doing it for a long time at that point. So today, I get the privilege. I've made millions and millions of dollars coaching. The money at some point doesn't matter if you hate going to work every day, or if you hate what you're doing, or you're not building it with the way that you had in mind first. Like Zach was talking about, he built it the way his partner wanted to build it. That is not the way to build it. I got a lot out of your turn, brother. I got a lot. You reminded me of some things I should already know. I also built a large coaching organization, and then I sold my ownership in that to my partner. When I left, we had roughly 300 people that had paid $10,000 each, and we're paying about $600 a month to be coached by 19 of our coaches. And while that was good and there were some positive things coming from it, there were some things coming from it also that I just didn't want to be a part of. A lot of maintenance goes into that, a lot of upkeep, a lot of drama, a lot of things. We found out at one of our events that two people who were married were having sex with each other. Not the married couple, two different people. And now I'm in the middle of all this stuff. And so today, though, I changed everything 4 or 5 years ago. Today, I get the privilege, honor, and responsibility. I coach some of the top leaders in our space. How many of you are in Leadership Boardroom right now? Let me see hands real high. Okay, there's 4 people in this room. I coach coaches, national speakers, info marketers, people who are in a leadership position and they want to use their leadership to impact positive change on lots of other people. That's who I get a lot out of working with. And I learn just as much as I help. So I love it. But I've structured it that way because it's for me. I also now have 4 Leadership Boardroom coaches within our organization, but I keep this simpler than ever. I'm going to show you that structure here in just a little bit. And it is very simple. Today it's very, very simple. Matter of fact, to give you an idea, I can run my entire coaching business now I do a couple things I'll share here in a minute. I have mastermind retreats and I also do one-on-one coaching with each of my people. On a retreat month, I have to work 8 days in that month. On any non-retreat month, I have to work 5 days. That's it. I can do whatever I want with the rest of the month. And I'll show you some of the numbers here. It more than provides for everything that I need, and I love it. And some people are going to hear this and they go, well, it's not scalable. I don't care. I love it how it is. I'm not trying to build something so that I can get away from it. I'm trying to build something that I love waking up to every single day. That's a completely different business. So when you're starting to build your coaching business, first of all, the first thing you have to do is say, what's my big idea? What makes me different than everybody else? I'll show you mine here in a second. But what makes your difference? If I talk to Joe McCall, for example, who's a student of mine, Joe's big idea is he does lease options and he uses technology to do it from his home. So he can do it anywhere in the world. That is a very specific niche. It's a niche within a niche within a niche. And I love that because he attracts a certain type of people to that niche. So if you don't have that, you need to think about, what do I want my niche to be? It could be, if you just say my niche is wholesaling, that's fine. But if you could even splice that down into something more specific, you'd much be better off. Second thing you have to do is decide, what are you really, and by the way, forgive me for going fast. I'm trying to teach you guys what I teach in, Brian mentioned that event he came to 4 years ago. I teach this in 3 days, and I have 45 minutes today, so I'm going to go really fast. Second thing you have to do is you have to ask yourself, am I really a coach? Are you a coach? Are you a consultant? There is a big difference. Let me explain to you what the differences are. A coach is somebody who can pull out of you what you didn't even know was there. Okay? So like Tiger Woods has a coach. The coach ain't any better than Tiger Woods at playing golf, but he can pull something out of Tiger Woods that he didn't know was there. Or maybe he knew was there, but he couldn't find it for a little while. So a coach is an extractor, is the way I look at it. A consultant is sort of the opposite of that. They just give what they know. So you come and you ask me a bunch of questions, and I consult with you, and I tell you what to do next, which is fine. A teacher is totally different than both of these. A teacher is somebody that loves to take a process, for example, and teach you how to do it, right? But that, just because you're a good teacher doesn't mean you're a good coach. You got to identify, what are you? Or are you a mentor? A mentor is somebody who's been there, done that, and is doing a combination of some of these things. So I've been there. I've rehabbed 700 houses or whatever, and I know how that process works, and you can shadow me now, and you can go to my properties. These are all completely different things. I know it sounds simple, but it is two complete. If you answer those two, what business am I in, and what type of, quote, coach am I, that changes the complete structure of your business. If your core business, for example, is, let's just say, lending, and then maybe you use your coaching as a way to lend more money. Maybe that's secondary to having a lending business, for example. But if your coaching is your primary business or consulting is your primary business, you got to treat it like that. So what makes your coaching unique? People don't want stuff. For those of you that signed up for Leadership Boardroom, I might just ask Matt Andrews, are you in here? Matt, you just signed up in the last 2 weeks. What have you received so far?
I got a text, very nicely worded.
Nothing. He's gotten a text and an email. He gets nothing when he joins. That's $10,000 to join. Somehow he felt good. Look, he didn't join for stuff. Why do you think Matt joined Leadership Boardroom? Why do you think? Networking, people. Yes, here's the bottom line. He wants results of some kind. So it's my job to figure out what results do I need to give my clientele. What results can I get them? It doesn't matter how many calls a month you do. It doesn't matter how many pages are in your home study course manual or how many freaking CDs or MP3s it comes with or any of that other garbage. No one cares. What they want is what results can you get them, so you better decide that. That's the third thing. What results can I really bring people? And you might be surprised because most people downplay what they can bring to others and upplay what everybody else brings to the table, right? We all do that to ourselves because we don't feel like we're worthy, and I get all of that. But you've got a lot to offer. So what is that? You got to get specific with it. What results can you give people? I know what results I can give people in Leadership Boardroom. I've got it all written out. And I have those conversations before anyone gets in. I make sure that the result that they're looking for is what I can actually deliver. Because remember, I'm not looking just for more money. I'm looking for results myself. And so if I can't deliver, I'm not going to feel good about coaching, which I have had students where I just can't help them. I don't know how to help them. It's time for them to go. I can't work with those people. So you got to decide this stuff before you say, well, what should I charge? Everybody always comes to me and they say, well, what should I charge for my coaching? I'm like, well, what business are you in? If you're in the lending business, you don't need to charge much for coaching because your goal is to get more hard money lending out on the street, for example. If you're in the coaching business, it might be something different. Or if you're in the teaching business, it might be something different. But you have to answer these questions before you decide on cost. Now, there are 4 stages to building an insanely profitable coaching business that you love, so get ready to take notes. Stage number 1, I call it dare to dream. This is where you have to decide, what is my vision for this? What do I want? You asked a great question, Zach. What do I want out of this? That's a great question. There's a lot more that goes into this too. Not only what do I want, what do I want to deliver? Do I want a big organization? Do I want a small one? Do I want to impact lots of people or a little bit? Do I want to go an inch wide and a mile deep, or a mile wide and an inch deep with people? Do I want to teach? Do I want to lecture? What do I want to do? How do I want to deliver that? If I could have my choice, let's just say everything, I call it burning all to the ground. Let's say everything burned to the ground tomorrow. You had nothing, no resources, no nothing, except for you have 2 things. You have what's in here, and you're not broke. There's no need for money right away. What would you create? Then what would you create? That's a great question to ask. Because if I think of things like how fast I need to make money, I might start thinking, well, I have to provide one-on-one coaching, for example, because that's the only thing people will pay for. No, let's just pretend for a second. Burn it all down. Pretend like you have nothing but this and no need for money right away. What would you build? What would you build? How would it look? I spend hours going over this alone. We got to go fast today, so I'm going to go fast. Stage 2 is attract. How are you going to attract those people to you? What's the fastest, easiest way to get people to know, like, and trust you? How do you get in front of that specific type of audience that's looking for what it is that you can deliver? And you better be able to do that, or else you're not going to have any students. Here's one of the biggest challenges I see with coaches. Most of the best coaches on earth are the shittiest marketers. They care so much about people, they're spending time with other people or they're pouring into other people and they never market themselves at all. And so some of the very best coaches that I've worked with over the years are awful at marketing themselves. They don't know how to get a single student, but if I give them a student, they will go to the nth degree to make sure the student is fulfilled. And so you need to know this about yourself. If you're not that person, you might need to either partner up with somebody who is or do what I call stepping on the shoulder of a giant, which I'll show you here in a second. Stage number 3 is how you're going to convert them from just somebody who is maybe a prospect or somebody in the audience to somebody who's actually going to become your client, your coaching student, in my case, my friend. Like, I get to hang out with my friends today and just help them with their stuff, and I get paid really well for it. So I love it. How are you going to convert them, though? Some people really struggle with the conversion thing. You can have a great conversation with somebody on the phone, and it's like you can't get them to jump off the cliff and actually sign up, or you're afraid to ask for the money, or maybe you're afraid to ask for too much. There's a process that goes into this. Finally, stage 4 is now you get to deliver. What is it you're actually delivering? This is the thing. Most people get so hung up on the deliverability of it that they forget about the first 3, and so they have this great, how many of you have ever created a course or some type of training material, you've created it before you've ever sold it? Has anybody in here ever done that? You've created it? Okay, I don't do that anymore. I actually sell it first, and then I create it after I find out if there's a need. I don't do that anymore. That's the deliverability. That's stage 4. It's not stage 1. So first thing I have to do is stage 1, dare to dream. So let's talk about that just a little bit here. What do you want your program to look like? First and foremost, I mean, you guys are awesome by being here. You're researching, you're figuring out what other programs look like so that you can decide what it is that you want to do. But don't just copy somebody else's. That's maybe what works for them. And you may find out it's not all it's cracked up to be, as we heard from Zach just a little while ago. I bet you had people come up to you all the time saying, man, you got it made, right? Everybody's envious of you, and on the inside you're going, I freaking hate this. I'm 3 inches from going to the hospital. I haven't seen my daughter in 2 weeks, and I'm stressed out all the time. So don't just copy somebody else based on what they tell you. Take bits and pieces of what you like and combine it together to create your own thing. Nothing that you copy is going to be perfect for you because your vision should be different than everybody else. By the way, my sole purpose with my members of Leadership Boardroom, I have 2 purposes. I want them to live their own personal and business vision so that they can help the people they influence live theirs as well. That's the whole purpose. That's why I only deal with influencers and leaders today. So this process is really important. See what you like out there. Come create your own little thing. Don't just create what makes money. You'll hate it. Please believe me, you will hate every bit of it. How many of you in here actually like spending time one-on-one with people? You like one-on-one coaching. If all the money was the same, you actually like spending time with people. So raise your hands real high so I can see them. Okay, how many of you would rather not talk on the phone with anybody in that capacity ever if you had the choice and all the money was the same? Okay, then you're not going to do one-on-one stuff. Some people don't want to do one-on-one stuff though because they've done it in the past with the wrong people. They think they hate it. They've done it with the wrong people. And so this is what you got to get real clear about. Do you want to do this? I love spending time with my students. They are literally some of my best friends on earth. I go on vacations with them. I spend time with them. We have fun together. So I feel like, literally, I hang out with my friends all the time, and I get paid well to do it. But that's because of who I chose to put in. I'll show you that here in a second. That's based on what I want, not just what's going to make the most money. I had a guy that I turned down about a month ago. He said, I really want Leadership Boardroom. So I did my little interview process with him, and about halfway through, I was already finished. And I said, now's not the time. And he goes, well, do you not have a spot? And I said, no, I actually do have a spot that just opened up. I don't have a spot for you. And he goes, what do you mean? And I said, well, we've been on the phone for about 15 minutes. I recognize and understand where you're at on a number of issues because I've been there myself. I've had a couple of ideas that I've shared with you, and you've already shot them down before I could finish my sentence. You aren't coachable. You know what he said? Yes, I am. I'm the most coachable person you probably have ever met. And I said, look, with all due respect, dude, if you were coachable, you would have just responded to me saying you're uncoachable differently. You would have said, really? Tell me where I'm being uncoachable. I didn't see that. For that reason, it's not time. And guess what he did next? Well, can you tell me where I'm uncoachable? Because I don't really see that. Like, it's not a time. You're not ready for it. He goes, but I have 10 grand. I'm ready to give it to you right now. And I said, I don't need your money that badly. Now, why don't I need the money? Because I've built a really, really simple business. If I had the business that I had 6, 7, 8 years ago, I would have had to take that student because I needed the dough. Today, I don't have any personal debt. I paid off my house. I have no credit cards, no car payments, no nothing. My business operates on peanuts. It doesn't cost anything to run, and so the majority of what I make, I get to keep. Matter of fact, I operate on an 83% profit margin. So if I bring in $1, I get to keep 83 cents of it. That was not the case 6 years ago. It is a beautiful thing. And by the way, I'm not saying any of that to sit here and brag about myself. I screwed all this up. I won't go back. I've got a very, very simple business for a reason. I came up with this when I redid all of my vision for this about 4 or 5 years ago. I said, I want to create a program that's so damn good that people would, there's a monthly fee to it too, and I thought, I want to make it so good that people, if they really got in a bind, they would rather pay me than their food bill. Not because I want them to pay me over food. I'm not a sadistic, freak. But I want to deliver that kind of experience for them. And I said, everything I have to do has to come from that place. Like, how can I deliver so much value that they don't want to leave? And I'll give you a little clue here. That value doesn't just come from me. It largely comes from who you put in your groups as well. Because if you're the best coach ever and you put them in a room with a bunch of jackwads, it sucks. They'll leave. Okay? So I did that. I literally wrote that down at our last retreat. John, you were there. 3 people in that room who were struggling with some COVID stuff this year said they had to really make some choices. And these are very, very successful people historically, but COVID shut them out pretty hard. And they said, I had to make some really tough choices. I had to cut out all my expenses. This is the only one that I'd said absolutely not to my accountant. I'm not cutting it out no matter what. I'll stop paying the food bill basically before I cut out this bill. And I thought that, of course I don't want them to struggle. It's not what I want, but that goes to show you what kind, when you write that down, that's what you want to deliver. It didn't happen overnight, but you can create that kind of environment for your people. So I'm going to show you how to do that here in a second. Now, a couple of different structures here. Steve, you brought up the deal partner program. I love that program. You charge an upfront fee, you charge a monthly fee, you do deal splits. That's great. Now, in that, you have to ask, what is your core business? Is your core business the coaching business, or is your core business doing deals? That's really important. If your core business is doing deals, you're going to approach some things differently than if your core business was coaching. You can do one-on-one coaching. Some of you said, no way, I don't want to do that. You can. Here's the challenge with just one-on-one coaching, is you have to show up and bring 100% of the value 100% of the time. That's really hard to do. Even if you're a really good coach, it's really hard to do. And your shelf life for a student is probably going to be limited, I'm guessing somewhere around 4 to 6 months, because eventually the student says, I've learned everything I need to know from you, Alex. It's great, but I got to go. So I don't do just one-on-one. I love it, but I mix a couple of these things together. You can also do one-to-many. How many of you have a one-to-many coaching program where lots of people get on the phone with you at once and okay, that's great. If you like it, do it. I hated it. And the reason I hated it is because I didn't really, we would have 100 people on the phone at any given time, and I just never got to know any of them real well, and so I would help them with these service level problems, but I rather enjoy going much deeper than that. We have an insanely vulnerable, open environment. I like going much deeper than that with people and getting to the heart of an issue, not a surface level issue. And so I don't get fulfillment from that. It made some decent money back in the day, but I got rid of all of it because I just didn't enjoy it. Okay? But you decide. You can combine multiple aspects of each. So here's what I do today. I combined coaching, masterminding, and mentoring all together. I've found that I love that the most. You don't have to do the same thing I'm doing. I'm going to give you a structure here. Maybe you can copy some of it or bits and pieces of it or all of it if you want to. First thing I do is I say, who do I want in it? Who do I want in it? What do I want to deliver to them? And I have a process that I went through 4 or 5 years ago. Let me show you real quick. It's called by 3 categories. I took 3 categories on a sheet, just a sheet of paper. I broke a sheet of paper down to 3 categories. And on the left, I wrote down all of the students' names that I have coached in the past that I hated. This sounds harsh, but lady I fell asleep on the phone with was in that category. And I wrote down what characteristics did they have that made me despise coaching them. And it's not that I don't love the people. I love the people. I'm fine with it. But, you can love people and not have lunch with them every day, right? And these are people that I spend time with, I really pour into. And so if I'm going to do that, I want it to be around people I like to hang out with, okay? And then I put another column. These were just the students that were just okay. And I wrote down what were the characteristics. So to give you an idea, awful student was uncoachable. They already know it all. Horrible attitude. They're cancer to the rest of my group. A regular student was somebody, they're cool. I don't really have anything in common with them. Maybe I can help them, but I don't want to just kind of help somebody. I want, during my calls and my meetings and our masterminds, I want people to walk away going, wow, that was awesome. If I can't deliver that for somebody, I don't want them in my groups. So I filter them out. On the right-hand category, it was my ideal student that I had coached over the previous 7 or 8 years, whatever that was. And I wrote, who did I look forward to talking to when I had a coaching call with them? Who did I love to talk to? And I wrote down their names. And I wrote down, why did I like to talk to Steve, for example? Steve actually wasn't a direct coaching student of mine, but I co-coached a group that we ran, and Steve was in it. And so why do I like coaching somebody like Steve, for example? Well, first of all, I like being around him. We have a lot in common. He takes action on everything that we talk about, and by the next call, he's like, here's what I did, and he gives me updates, and and I get to pull out from him, but he's coachable, and he listens, and so forth. Our values are in alignment. That's really important. But guys, there was 3 pages of these things that I wrote out. 3 pages. These are just a few of them. Here's what the number one category, or the number one thing in the right-hand category that got them in. And this is where it really hit me. I wrote this down. I wrote down, let's just say I was going to spend a one-on-one. Let's just say I would spend a day with them. Is this person someone that I would rather stay at my house, or would I rather them get a hotel? And if I would rather them get a hotel, then they would fit in the middle category at best. And so now I don't let anybody in unless I would like to have them stay at my, it doesn't mean they stay at my house. My wife would have a problem if I do that all the time. But it's what I wanted in my group. Does this make sense to you guys so far? Yes or no? Real loud, yes or no? All right, so you guys can do this too. Come up with 3 categories, okay? So I did that. That's the first thing. I said, what can I deliver to them, and who do I want in? And then I said, what's the structure that I would love to have? If I could do any structure in the world, let's just pretend like all the money's the same, forget about it. What structure would I have? And I thought, man, I love the mastermind retreats. This is something I was already doing. But I used to do them, when I did this vision process, I used to do the mastermind retreats for 3 days in a row, and I had 30 people in a room, and it was 3 days, and it was exhausting, and at the end of 3 days, I was worn out. And I said, no, man, I like at the end of the second day, I feel really good, but I'm kind of done. You know what I mean? So I would love to do 2-day. It's kind of like golf for me. Anybody play golf in here? I hate to play 18 holes. I'm done. At the 12th hole, I'm done. I'm out. So 9 is good for me. I still leave. I want a little bit more, but 18, I'm like, screw this stupid sport. I'm never doing this again. And so I thought the same thing with masterminds, like 2-day retreats. That would be awesome. Get people in, deliver high value to them, get them out. At our masterminds, they are insanely vulnerable. We don't just talk about marketing for the next coaching student. We talk about everything. We talk about anything that is inhibiting the student in the room, I say student, member in the room, from living either their personal or their business vision. That's what I wanted in my group. My group is not a real estate group. It's not just a speaking group. It attracts speakers, coaches, because that's my background and that's who I can work with and help, but it encompasses many different things. And I love that. We get to tackle a wide array of challenges. People open up there, similar to what Steve was talking about before. We talk about crazy things. One of the guys showed up a couple years ago. This is a well-known guy. If I said his name, most of you would recognize him as a national speaker. And he said, man, I've made more money in the last 2 years I've ever made in my life, and I now have a $600,000 tax bill. I didn't prepare properly for it. No one knows, not even my wife. What do I do? And in the room, because it's an open environment, and because of the caliber of people I put in the room, one guy immediately spoke up. He said, that happened to me 6 years ago. This is the attorney you need to reach out to. Here's the 5 steps that I did to get out of it. Another person said, I went through that 9 years ago. Another person stepped up and said, I'm getting ready to do that right now. Thank God I'm not going to do it because I'm learning from what we're doing right here in the room. This is the stuff that we talk about in our groups. That's what I wanted. And so I get a lot of joy out of it. I also do a one-on-one coaching call with each of my members once a month. Anybody who wants it. Now I should say this, I thought when I started doing this, I thought that all of the members would want a coaching call every single month because why wouldn't they want to talk to me? And then some people wouldn't call in ever. And I had a time set aside for them. And I'm sitting there 45 minutes like an idiot twiddling my thumbs, and finally after they missed 2 or 3 calls, I would call them and say, why aren't you calling for your one-on-one calls? I'll never forget this. Vena Jones-Cox, who is a national speaker you might know, she said, because I don't want one. And I was like, how dare you? What do you mean you don't want this wisdom? And she's like, that's not why I joined the group. I joined the group for the mastermind retreats. I was like, okay, now I know I don't even have to save you a spot. That's great. I wish I would have known that 3 months ago when I've been booking spots for you every single month and sitting here twiddling my thumbs. But I didn't know that. So some people value the mastermind the most. Some people value the one-on-one connection the most. Some people value, we do a group call once a month where I pick one member of Leadership Boardroom and I have them share on a group call their best of the best stuff. I had Adam Adams come on 2 days ago, and he shared all of his Facebook algorithms on how he posts something and gets the most interaction. You want to see how this works? Go to my Facebook page and look at it. I tested what he's been doing for the last 2 days now. My posts have had on average 150 to 200 responses on them just by what he taught us on that call. It was an hour-and-a-half call. But these are some of the best in the business. And so, but that's really important. So if I have 20% of my members are the best of the best and 80% are newbies, what do you think the 20% are going to do? They're going to leave. Yeah, because they're the one providing all the value, and they're not getting any value. So you need to decide the caliber of people that you want too. Do you want just newbies? That's fine if you do. Or do you want the higher caliber people? If so, you got to make sure they're in a room with other higher caliber people. Okay? I also do get-together days with my students where they can come in. We've been doing more of these as 2 and 3 people at a time where we come in and we spend the whole day together, and I help them extract their vision from them. We come up with a game plan on how they're going to pull it off. And I love it. I absolutely love it. Some people would say, I'd never want to do that in my life. I love it. We have a great time. And then we have a Facebook group where we initiate community. Now, here's the thing. If you're coaching, if you want to do all the work yourself all the time, then don't build a community. If you want to take some of the weight off of your shoulders, then build a phenomenal community. Like when I have a student of mine ask a question that I think everybody else in the group can benefit from, I don't answer it often. They don't know I do this. But I say, hey, will you do me a favor? I want to respond to that, but go post it to the Facebook group because I want everybody to hear this. I've got at least 3 other people that need to hear that right now. And then they post it, and guess what happens? All of my other members go and answer. A lot of times they come up with better answers than I was going to come up with anyway, and my response is either shortened or I don't have to respond at all now, and they start to lean in on each other instead of leaning on the coach the entire time. So, and I strongly encourage that in my retreats, for example. Let me see how we're doing on time, because I might share one more thing I didn't plan on sharing. Nope, I'm not going to. All right, I don't have time. Okay, so the community in my case here, I believe, is at least 50% of the value. For some people, it's probably much more than that, because some people don't ever call in for a coaching call, but they show up to every single retreat, right? Some people call in every single month. Now, with coaching calls, I don't have a set time for everybody every month. When I said I work 5 days a month, I have 5 days that I'm available to my members, and I have a little calendar app, and they can go schedule a call with me anytime during those 5 days. Once those 5 days are up, they don't get a call if I'm full. And so why do I like that? Because now I can schedule it on my schedule. I don't have to be at everyone's beck and call 24 hours a day. Which, by the way, if I want to take 6 weeks off, for example, and go travel to Yellowstone and Glacier National Park like I did recently, I can book my calls at the beginning of July and then at the end of August. As long as I deliver one a month, I'm fine. So it's great. I love it. It gives me all the freedom that I get to have. During that time off, I let them know, thank you, and they know what to expect while I'm gone. Don't call me. I was literally gone. On that trip, I was gone 5 weeks. You want to talk about ego, man. The first week felt really good to just, you know how it's nice to just let go a little bit. You don't have any worries, and you don't have to think about work or anything back at home or anything. About a week and 2-3 days into it, I realized that all of my members had done exactly what I asked them to do, which is don't bother me while I'm gone. And I realized my ego was completely deflating. Nobody needs me. And I started to realize like how much of my significance is met by being there for them. But it was really cool because I got to be there present with my family. And so that's what I want more than anything. So build that, okay? So how do you do this? Well, first of all, don't just accept any schmuck with money. You might want to interview them, especially if you're doing any one-on-one whatsoever, but I would say interview everybody. If there's any type of group environment whatsoever, one cancer spreads throughout the entire group. One. I don't let it in. And so I interview them. Now, I'm not going to go in that process now because we don't have time. The cost is also another filter. I charge 10 grand up front for a reason. It puts people with skin in the game. They don't leave after month 3 when somebody in the group tells them something they need to hear but don't want to hear. And that happens every single retreat. I always tell people, when you join my group, at some point you're either going to be really pissed off or cry. Because we're going to tell you the truth. We're not going to sit here and blow smoke up your butt like everybody else does. These are people in leadership positions where their staff and even sometimes their spouses are telling them what they want to hear. We won't do that. That's the environment that I've created. And so sometimes it pisses people off. But we do it with love. So if they've got no skin in the game up front and they get pissed off month 2, they'll leave. If not, they'll stay. If I've got some skin in the game. So average stick rate in most coaching programs, I said this before, average stick rate, I coach a lot of coaches, 4 to 6 months. That's the average stick rate. Mine is anywhere from 4 to 6 years. How in the world is it 4 to 6 years? Why would anybody continue? It's $1,000 a month on top of the 10 grand, by the way. Every month, so they pay 10 grand once to get in, that's the country club fee, and it's $1,000 a month every month for the rest of their life that they stay in. Why would somebody pay for 4 or 5 years? Because yes, they're getting something out of it. So it challenges me as a coach. I have to continue to up my deliverability, which means upping what I'm capable of doing as a coach, which means upping the caliber of the people in the room. All of those things that go into making a great program, it forces me to be the best I can. Otherwise, if I'm not, they'll leave. And I'm okay with that. I like that, actually. It forces me not to be too lazy. So mine are also limited to 15 people, and I have 4 groups, and that's it. That's where people look at me and they go, well, that's not scalable. I don't care. 4 groups is 60 people at $1,000 a month. That's $60,000 a month coming in. I told you my expenses are nothing. If you don't have any bills and no debt, you don't really need more than 50 grand a month to have a phenomenal life, guys. That's a lot of money. It's hard to spend 50 grand a month if you don't have any bills. So I don't care that I'm not making 17 million. By the way, that's just on the coaching. It doesn't include speaker training I do and coach training and anytime I go do a deal or anything else. Remember, that's not my core business anymore, so I don't let it distract me from my core, but that doesn't include anything. That also doesn't include the upfront fees that I take for 10 grand for somebody joining. So it is very lucrative, and I love it because it gives me all the time and the freedom that I asked for when I first started this. But this was designed by design this time. I didn't just default to whoever was going to pay me or what I thought the program had to deliver to people in order to make it valuable. I came with this from my vision perspective from the start this time around, and it was a completely different experience, okay? So it also works because it is a deeply personal, open environment. I always tell people when you come to the first retreat, you're going to make some friends. It's great. By the time you're at the second retreat, you've now got really close friends because we talk about deep stuff. By the third retreat, which is 3 retreats a year, by the third retreat, you are now part of a family. And all the good things that come with a family and all the tough things that go on. There are times where we're doing this in the retreats and somebody disagrees and we have those open discussions. But it's almost like I call it like the family that you probably never had growing up, where people will really tell you the truth and they've got the experience to back it up. So that's what I try to provide. I can't find this anywhere else. I've looked because I need it. I literally looked for this last year. Like, man, I'd love to be a part of a group like this. It doesn't exist. And so because of that, my stick rate is high. Guess what? Do I have to be a great marketer if my stick rate is high? Stick rate meaning how long they stay. No, I can be the worst marketer on earth. If nobody leaves, I don't have to market. Okay, let me see how we're doing on time here, because I think I got just a few minutes left. Yes, I have 4 minutes left. So I'm going to skip over boundaries real quick, but the bottom line is you better have some boundaries in your business. If you don't have any and you just don't set the expectation with the student and the student thinks that they should be able to call you at 3 o'clock in the morning and you should answer because they paid you lots of money, you're going to hate it. If the boundaries aren't predictable, you're also going to start to resent your students. So that's why I have my coaching calls scheduled on whatever day I want them to be. I don't have them scheduled, well, they're the first Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday of the month. Sometimes I want to go on vacation that first Tuesday of the month. So I literally schedule them every month. I schedule them for the next month. And then I send my students a message and say, hey, next month's calls are available. If you want one, book it. If not, no problem. I'll see you at the next retreat. So it's around me, not I want to deliver them value, but they don't come first. Me and my family and the design of it comes first. And then I say, are they going to deliver massive value out of that, okay? I do not do unlimited email. I used to do that. Problem is I would get 1 email one day and 400 the next day. It is unpredictable. I don't do unlimited email. I don't do unlimited random phone calls and meetings. Now, if one of my students reaches out and says, hey, I'm going through some really tough stuff, can you talk? Of course I will. But that is an honor, not an obligation. It is something extra that I'm giving them. It is not what I promised. So I don't promise anywhere near as much as I deliver. Some of you guys promise way too much, and then you have to deliver it for the rest of your life. So don't do that. Promise way too much, okay? Also, the reason that I have a monthly fee to go along with this is because I don't want to be disincentivized to work with somebody 6 months down the road if I've already spent the dough they paid me to coach them 4 months ago. Does that make sense? So I have money. And last thing, too, on that. My billing hits every single month on the 25th. Every single one of my students gets charged on the 25th before all the rest of their bills get paid on the 1st. And so the 25th, all of my payments come in on that day. Ding, 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 all day long. And my assistant, who works less than 20 hours a week, can have all of our accounting configured and all finished, usually by the 27th. If a payment doesn't go through, he calls him on the 26th, gets a new credit card. It's fixed by the 27th. I give myself a check if I want one that month. It's simple. About as simple as you can get, okay? Now, once you've determined all this stuff, now you can figure out how much it's going to cost, but not until then. So we have covered Dare to Dream. We've just barely, we're not even scratching the surface on Attract, and I'm running out of time, so I'm going to go through some of this real quick. When it comes to attracting, I'm going to tell you the fastest way to attract people. Step on the shoulder of a giant. How do I step on the shoulder of a giant? I find I'm not good at creating my own audience. I hate paid Facebook ads. I'm a terrible internet marketer. I'm awful at those things. But I know one of my skills is speaking in front of people. And I can convert when I do that. And so I speak on podcasts and speaking events like this, and I don't even have to sell. All I have to do is come, deliver massive amounts of value. Somebody in this room is probably going to approach me at some point. Hey, tell me more about your group. I want to find out a little bit. And that's fine. And if it doesn't happen, that's fine too, because I don't have any bills. So I step on the shoulder of a giant. I find somebody else who has an audience. I actually deliver massive value to them through that audience. And then that's how I get students. And it's really, really simple. Okay?